There's someone at my door. One sec. Hello?
Oh, hi, I have a cat.
You have a cat?
Yes.
Oh, come in, come in. I've just finished writing my English essay, actually.
Hey, mine just so happens to be on right here as
Oh
well.
my god, somehow your laptop is in my house and it has your essay up.
Convenient.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Yeah.
This isn't even my cat.
That's my cat. Wait a minute. Hello. I think he likes you better. But
Yeah.
anyway, how many words is your essay then?
1,170.
Well, you see, mine is 1,229, so I think that clearly means that mine's better, right? That's how that works.
Why? 'Cause it's larger by 59 words?
Well, yeah, size does matter. Everyone says that. I think mine's clearly better than yours.
Oh, I don't think so. I think mine's better.
Oh, well, there's only really one way to figure that out, isn't there?
What's
Alright.
that?
Well, let's see whose essay's better, right? You read yours, I read mine. We'll see who sounds better. Which is
How
more
about
convincing.
you read yours, I read mine. He's so cocky.
Well, personally, I believe that people indulge themselves in contemporary media for all kinds of reasons. They either want to express themselves, to capture others' experiences, or to simply pass the time. But one factor that contributes to all the reasons someone may have is the simple fact that everyone's just looking for a good story, yeah? So a good story should not only be immersive, but integrate the consumer into the narrative in such a way where they can manipulate the story to fit their own personal desires and fantasies, creating a sense of agency in the responder.
I think my introduction's just a little bit longer than that.
Oh, a bit longer. Okay, well.
Just a bit longer.
Alright then, let's see yours.
See, the modern age has brought, well, in many new ways to tell a story, along with outlets to release them. With most people having access to these kinds of technologies in their pocket, you know, like phones and that, with such things as YouTube, it's easy for about anyone to get their stories out. So yeah, in this essay, I kind of intended to prove that the immersive storytelling available in video games is more engaging than most traditional forms of media.
I see. Well, I mean, in mine, you know, if people can become a part of the story, then they'll enjoy it more. Right. Because, I mean, whilst linear storytelling has held up for hundreds of years, it's still an amazing form of enjoyment and education, but the idea that you could theoretically experience something that only you could is too enticing not to explore. Okay, let's have an example. If two different people read the same book, read the same plot twists, and follow the same characters, whilst they may feel different about the conclusion, they still end up with the same conclusion. But if two people start with the same story, but choose different paths based on what they want, they get different conclusions, but more importantly, they get favourable conclusions based on their interests. This is where virtual reality, or VR, enters the scene. To prove its effectiveness, I will compare it to a popular form of linear storytelling, the Serial podcast.
See, actually, the first thing I talk about in my essay, like the first body paragraph I refer to, is about the podcast Serial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, well, you know how Serial spends its first episode introducing the case to everyone?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of find that the narrator's unchanging soft tone of voice, matched with the cheerful music introduced every now and then, is kind of soothing. Kind of makes it easier to listen to, honestly. Since it is a podcast, it doesn't have any form of visual elements to keep the listeners intrigued, but it doesn't really need it, does it?
Huh?
The lack of visual elements means the listener can play the episodes while they do something else, like work or study, something like that. The podcast has created a relatively large following of dedicated fans, actually. Some of which actually like to work on the case while listening to the podcast. Kind of immersing themselves in it as well.
Fair enough.
The podcast is available on a wide range of places, like YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as well as its own website. And the website also includes quick descriptions of the episodes, or even a description of the entire season.
Jesus.
And it's available in 3 seasons. So, why wouldn't you?
So, so, so basically, what you're saying is that Serial is fantastic because it's more accessible than anything else, and you can do lots of things whilst listening to it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but the issue is that it is fairly obvious that it is told from a like biased point of view.
Biased point of view.
Yeah.
I mean,
The narrator doesn't really talk about the other side of the case.
see, that is why I believe stories should be immersive in the way that people can make themselves part of the story, right? You know, it should be something where it takes the responder out of their world and something of their own choosing and comfort zone. Now, one way of choosing this is the use of music and sound effects, as you said. You know,
Oh, yeah?
Serial does use this to great effect. You see, I think that the soundscape of Serial is what captures someone's listening. You know, like the information, the words being said, the story. It's great and all, but it's not enough to grab someone's focus. But a well time.
I actually did personally find it a little bit hard to pay proper attention to Serial.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting there listening to it, trying to write this essay, and I'm just zoning out.
Yeah, because, I mean, of course, you can listen, but you listen to people talking all the time, right?
Yeah.
But you need to have it mixed in with something. For example, if you have calming music in a tense situation, like the music's very calming, relaxing, but the person is saying something really, intense, drawing your focus, it creates a nice contrast where, it intrigues you, you know? Like, for example, if a character in the podcast is about to discover something important, or if the listener knows something that the character doesn't in a tense situation, and there's calm music playing, there's this very interesting sort of contrast where you feel a bit on edge, but you're still listening in.
That is a lot of big words. Actually, the next subject I talk about is is an example of gaming. So the game I chose to use as an example was the game Shadow of War, which is a tie-in game to the Lord of the Rings world. The game includes many different features that create interest in it. Now, interaction between other players as well, including a complex mechanic dubbed the Nemesis system. I'll explain that a little bit more later, but it basically just makes the game unique.
Oh my god. Well, you seem to be zooming through your essay quite quickly.
Yeah.
You see, this is what I'm telling you, I have more words, therefore mine is better, as I was saying. But, back to Serial. The music is fantastic, but if you're gonna create a proper soundscape, you need sound effects as well. Like for example, like a crash, a bang, or a gunshot can take the listener by surprise if not paying attention. Like, if you're zoning out, you're working, writing up an essay per se, listening to an essay, and then bang! Gunshot goes off in the podcast. You jump, and you're like, whoa, wait, what was that? And then you realise it was the podcast, right? And, you're suddenly paying attention. But sound effects can also help you visually picture a scene. If saying that someone gets shot is enough, but saying someone gets shot, bang, sound effect, you can more easily visualize that.
Fair enough. I don't actually talk much of sound effects beyond this point, but I do talk a lot of the game mechanics that keep the intrigue. For example, one that they dubbed the Vendetta or Vendetta quests is quests that they're online quests. Basically, the player is tasked with defeating an enemy that defeated another player, allowing kind of some form of interaction along with rewards gained for both players.
Revenge, everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
We love revenge. Well, I see you're talking quite a lot about intrigue, right?
Yeah.
I have a few more points about Serial though. A well-catered story is more likely to intrigue something broader. This is inherently obvious, but it's a good point to bring up. Podcasts offer choice. They come in multiple genres, and the more options people have, the more people will listen and engage. So of course, a true crime fan, right, podcast will rake in true crime fans. That makes sense. This is important because a true crime fan in particular will want to investigate, to be part of and attempt the mystery for themselves and indulge themselves in the case. Serial does this. It leaves the case open-ended, allows people to ask questions to themselves and have theories. inherently catering to their own sense of adventure. But of course, there are even more genres, more communities of podcasts, which encompass a vastly wide audience of podcast fans. It's like, even if someone is a fan of a podcast that only has like 12 listeners, they can still feel a part of that broader community because they're a podcast fan, which has millions.
Okay, but does your essay actually mention what each is about?
What each season of Serial is about?
Yeah.
Well, well, you see, I tried to not tend on the story itself because that would be spoilers.
Fair enough, but I didn't actually directly spoil anything that takes place in it. I just said what kind of things happen in it. Like, for example, the first season is centered around the potential wrongful imprisonment of an 18-year-old boy in 1999.
Ah, shit.
See, he was imprisoned for the murder of his ex-girlfriend at the time. The second season is based around an American soldier taken by the Taliban for 5 years.
Yes.
That is a long time of your life to lose. Third season just seems to be centered around the Justice Center complex in the Cleveland area.
So, a lot of these stories seem to be based around justice and, I guess, lawful undoing, you know, someone being wrongfully convicted or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
Well, crime.
Crime, yeah. As I said, true crime podcast, true crime fans. That makes sense now.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I mean, you know, all this talk about the fucking Taliban being captured, I kind of want to move away from Serial now, you know? Because Serial is great and all, but, you know, I think we all know that there is a better alternative than Serial games or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
People like to be integrated into a story, to be able to shift and mold it to what they see fit. VR is the perfect medium for this exact thing, with its main selling point being that it achieves and tells stories using all 5 modes. Right? Visual, you can see the world through the goggles. Audio, headphones come attached. Gestural, you are able to move articulated limbs in a virtual space. Yeah. And then linguistic, a microphone picks up your voice and transfers it into the space. And last, spatial, if you turn your head to the right, you'll see stuff on your right. Each factor contributes to a good story, and so a medium with all should realistically be the best a story can be.
Fair enough. Well, it doesn't have to be a VR game to have those kinds of things.
So you're saying that other games can have all 5 modes?
Yeah, exactly.
Like what?
Well, for example, Shadow of War has an example of all of those. The characters talk in it. That's the linguistic aspect.
There's one.
Audio. It has sound design. It has, as I mentioned a second ago, the characters speaking.
Okay, there's 2.
Visual element, obviously.
It's on a screen.
Yeah. Spatial as well. Like, you move, and there's still more to look at.
I guess you're also in like a 3D world, your
Yeah.
character.
So, I guess they're quite alike. Except, well, yours is more immersive, I guess. Oh, gestural as well. You can gesture in it.
But I think you're missing one important thing.
Yeah.
Because of course the most important aspect about VR is the 3D space which you exist in. See, this isn't like 3D glasses at the movie theater. You know, there is depth of field in all direction. It isn't just limited to one screen, but everywhere you look, which can include anything you want, not just the movie that is being predetermined. This truly convinces the user that they exist in a space where anything can happen, right? And it doesn't abide by our real physical world. Spatial audio assists in the illusion of the space. With audio that can seemingly originate from the front, the side, or even behind you, if you hear a bird tweeting to your left, and you look to your left, you'll see a bird, not in the real world, but in the virtual space. This is so important, right? This is incredibly important in storytelling. In games such as VR Chat, have you heard of VR Chat?
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of VR Chat? You know, it's an online platform. People can meet up, tell stories, and do that sort of thing, you know? So you are able to see other people from all across the world in your living room.
All across the world?
Yeah, I mean, VR, as I said, it's multimodal. You know, if you have a friend in, England, for example, and you want to be able to meet him and go through a forest or hiking together, COVID-19, you can't do that. But in VR, has all the 5 modes, you can virtually create that space, and he can be there right with you in your living room, just using the headset.
Oh, wow. So, is VR chat the only one that has an example of this?
Well, I think VR chat is the most prevalent example I could come up with. There are some more, I guess, some more design games. For example, if you're a big fan of first-person shooters, for example, you have your classic Call of Duty games, whatever, which are immersive, but it isn't truly immersive until you yourself can shoot that gun, which you can do in VR.
I actually think I have an idea in mind of a game that fits both of our ideas. It's a game called Rec Room.
Oh.
And you can play it in VR or just as a normal game. And it is like a online interactive game you can play with other people. That has all these different things, like mini games.
Huh. You seem to know quite a lot about VR as well, then.
Well, I am an avid gamer.
An avid gamer as opposed to a fucking subnormal gamer. Casual gamer. I apologize for the swearing, by the way. I don't know. Is this supposed to be like a kid-friendly podcast?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So, is VR better than Serial? Like, for example, if you were to just take my word of it for this essay, then you may think so. But realistically, there is no way to objectively determine what is better for someone's individual experience, as it'll always come down to someone's preference. Yes, VR does hit more modes, and can almost certainly be called more immersive in every way, but sometimes people just aren't looking for that. Sometimes people just look for something to listen to in the background, like you said, whilst doing work, whilst writing an essay, and a podcast will always be a better option for that over VR. But for storytelling, right? I'm talking about storytelling, not working, not going in the background. Storytelling. It's been my take on why VR trumps the competition in that regard, and is truly the most immersive and integral form of modern-day storytelling.
Well, back to mine. Actually a good example of storytelling that is made in the game, is, as I mentioned earlier, the Nemesis system, which, is very in-depth.
How so?
Well, since the game is based in the world of The Lord of the Rings, the main enemy you face are orcs.
Yes, yeah.
Now, rather than having just created orcs, just orcs created by the company that made the game, and, you beat all of them, and you're done. There's no more left. Instead, these orcs are procedurally generated, meaning they were created using a pool of details that have been randomly put together by a program to create unique enemies. So no two players are going to have the same experience. No two players are going to have the same orc. No two orcs are going to be the same.
That is kind of like what I was saying, a good story should, a person should be able to have a personal experience.
Exactly.
Something that only they can experience. And I guess if an orc is catered to them, it's their own personal enemy, then no one else can get that, I guess.
But see, what makes these characters even more in-depth, the details included, there are visual things, or, type of armor, or type of weapon, how tall they are, whether they're fat, everything like that. But it also includes things like weaknesses and strengths, bonds they have with other orcs.
So, they aren't just cardboard cutouts of an AI that you fight, they feel like real people then.
Yeah, they're not just one-sided. They have friends, they have weaknesses, they have fears, even.
My god. I mean, but imagine if you were to combine that sort of system with VR, right? You have these personalized enemies with, they have feelings and families and all this, but you could see them in front of you in a 3D space.
That would be really nice, but the game company WB Studio actually has a patent on the Nemesis system.
Oh, so
no other game company is able to make games like this until the patent's over.
Okay. What if that company just makes a VR version?
That would be absolutely amazing. They have made VR games before. They made a VR version of the Arkham, one of the Arkham games, Batman Arkham games.
Oh.
That was actually a really fun game.
Yeah.
But see, with Nemesis, there's actually a lot more to it too. There's also random things that can happen among the interactions you have with the orcs. You could go to fight them and they flee, they run off.
Of
Or
course.
you go to finish them off after you get them in really low health, and they defy death. Or, an even crazier idea, you outright kill them, and they just cheat death.
I don't think that seems quite fair.
Oh, see, but the whole idea of the story is your character is actually ever, like, coming back. He's incapable of properly dying.
Well.
So, it actually has an in-story reason behind why your character respawns as well.
Actual in-game reason. Well, I mean, so who do you think's whose essay do you think's better then? We've both kind of said our pieces, you know. Although they seem to be quite similar, unironically. Something about, you know, making the player immersed and integrating them. Just a bit different, you know, different sources.
Well, see, mine, in conclusion, the imaginative and interactive possibilities when it comes to video games are more successful when keeping interest over more traditional forms of media, such as podcasts like Serial, which are more one-sided forms of telling a story and don't paint the full picture. Podcast Serial does have its appeal, but it doesn't seem to be as successful as Shadow of War or any other kind of game when it comes to keeping the interest of the people and telling the story from a non-biased perspective. It doesn't deliver a unique idea or perspective. It doesn't present unique experience to the listener. There are plenty of podcasts like it, but video games, most often than not, present a unique idea or mechanic or story or all of the above. So I really think our essays aren't too different.
Yeah, because they do seem quite similar. Like you've just said, you know, if people just listen to a podcast, they're all going to listen to the same thing. They're not going to get anything different for them personally. But, you know, with VR or something, you can have whatever you want. And ironically, ours both seem to be linked to video games, you know? Like, because whilst VR could be used for things other than games, let's be honest,
they most commonly are used for video games and are most successfully used for video games.
So, like, I guess my final verdict would be, as I've already kind of stated, you know, the Serial podcast is better in some regards, but when it comes to being immersed and telling a story, I reckon VR is probably one of the best options you could pick.
Well, just games in general.
Just games in general are pretty underrated, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, if you read a book, you can get spoiled about that book. Like, you can go online on social media, and you can get spoiled about the ending of a book. But if you play a game where, you know, it's based on what you pick, you can't get spoiled, right? And, you know, it's all you, know? It's all you.
I think another good example of games that present a ending based on your choices that we have in common, actually, is the game Undertale.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Undertale. I remember the main reason it was quite popular is because conventionally you play like RPG games and it's you kill enemies, you level up. But Undertale did something quite tricky where it gave all of the enemies and characters sort of personalities. So it gave you an option to spare them, and if you killed them, you felt like a horrible person because then you later go to their house and find "Please don't hurt my family" written at the desk.
See, but also the player's choices on killing the characters available actually affects how the story ends too.
It matters.
The more of the enemies the player kills, the worse the ending they get. If they kill everything, they get an opportunity to kill. You get the toughest ending available.
Yeah, and it's because it isn't just you get a tougher final boss because the game says though that character actively knows that you've been killing his entire species and is angry at you. And right, even if you die, you go back. He knows that he's killed you once. You know, he can see you as a player through the screen.
So he even mocks you for
I guess, in a way, also ties into everyone's experience being personal. You could play through the game and not kill anyone, and you'd get a totally different experience to someone who's a genocidal freak and kills everything. Because, someone would get absolutely punished, and the other person would get a happy ending. So, it's all based on you, as we've said before, which is... it's just funny. I've just remembered, I used books as an example. Do you remember those old Goosebumps books?
Oh, yeah.
Where, you'd read a page and it says, if you want to go right, you turn to page 55. If you want to go left, turn to page 56. Yeah. I really wish that those kind of books would pick up more, because that's so fun.
I believe actually they did some of those for D&D.
D&D.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I remember in primary school, my teacher read one of those books. They put the character sheet up on the board, and yeah, it was actually quite a fun and immersive experience.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this has been a pretty good chat so far. I mean, I came in here expecting to prove to you that my essay's better, but they're kind of similar, so I'm not sure one can be better.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, it's hard to be better when they're basically the same.
Yeah, I mean...
Yours is just catering to a more niche market of gaming.
Well, VR is niche for now, but I hope that it'll become more well-known in the future, as I believe it's... as I've stated, yeah.
It does seem to be the future of gaming.
Wait, has this been recording the whole time?
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
Oh, hello there!
Hello. Hello. We weren't quite aware that you guys were listening in, but you know what? I guess if you guys agree or disagree, then that's fine. This has been, I guess, a podcast, ironically.
I guess.
Huh. Well...
How funny! We were just talking about how games are better than a podcast, and we accidentally make a podcast along with it.
Jesus, what? How? I don't... Huh. This is a bit too confusing for me now. I think maybe we should just turn off this recording, you know?
Well, I hope they enjoyed and we possibly opened new ideas.
I mean, if anybody is listening out there, then I hope so.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess we'll see.
Well, goodbye out there.
Bye.
Whoever is listening.